First Contact and Defiance. The stars held their ancient silence as the massive Veldrathi warship Sovereign Dominance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Its hull gleamed with a metallic purple sheen that absorbed rather than reflected light, a predator designed to hunt in the darkness between worlds. Commander Zexpal stood on the command deck, his 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display of the third planet. Such a blue jewel, he mused, running a 6-fingered hand across his scaled chin. And the primitives have no idea we're here. None, Commander, replied his second, Tralcor. Their detection systems are rudimentary. They've barely established a permanent presence on their moon and a small outpost on their neighboring red planet. Our scouts report their most advanced weapons use chemical propellants and basic nuclear fission. Zexval nodded with satisfaction. Another easy conquest for the Veldrathi Empire. Send the standard observation drones. I want a full planetary assessment before the rest of the fleet arrives. Unknown to the Veldrathi, their arrival had not gone unnoticed. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility called Artemis Base that officially didn't exist, General Maya Chen watched the alien vessel on her monitors with a grim expression. How long have they been there? She asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Lieutenant James Okonkwo checked his instruments. 27 minutes, General. They're launching smaller craft now, likely reconnaissance drones. Chen nodded. Let them look. Maintain emissions control on all facilities. No communication with Earth except through the quantum link. She turned to her communications officer. Inform the Security Council. Initiation Protocol Aegis. We have confirmation. The officer's eyes widened momentarily before he composed himself. Yes, General. For 15 years, humanity had been preparing in secret. The crashed alien scout ship discovered in the Gobi Desert had provided Earth with both warning and opportunity. The ship's database had revealed the existence of the Veldrathi Empire, a vast, expansionist civilization that systematically conquered less advanced worlds, subjugating their populations and harvesting their resources. Earth's governments had made the unprecedented decision to unite under a single military command while maintaining the appearance of division and primitive technology. Resources were secretly channeled into developing weapons and defenses based on the recovered alien technology. Hidden shipyards were established throughout the solar system, in the asteroid belt, beneath the Martian surface, and in the clouds of Venus. 3 days after the Veldrathi scout ship arrived, a fleet of 30 larger vessels emerged from hyperspace. The main invasion force had arrived. Commander Zexpal addressed Earth's leaders through a forced broadcast that overrode all communications channels worldwide. People of the planet designated Terra 3. I am Commander Zexval of the glorious Veldrathi Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our dominion. Resistance is both futile and unnecessary. Submit, and you will be allowed to serve the Empire as productive citizens. Refuse, and your civilization will be reduced to ashes. You have 12 of your hours to deliver your unconditional surrender. The wise choose life and service rather than defiance and extinction. In the United Nations Security Council's emergency bunker, representatives from Earth's nations sat in grim silence as the transmission ended. They're expecting panic, said General Chen, who had returned from Artemis Base via secret shuttle. They'd want us disorganized and terrified. President Alvarez of the North American Union leaned forward. Then let's give them exactly what they expect, right up until we don't. 12 hours later, Commander Zexval received what appeared to be a panicked message from Earth's unified leadership, begging for more time and asking about the terms of surrender. He smiled, his sharp teeth gleaming under the command deck lights. So predictable, he said to Tralcor. Initiate the demonstration strike. Target their largest military installation as planned. One of the Veldrathi ships moved into low Earth orbit, positioning itself above the North American continent. Its main cannon began charging, creating a purple glow at the front of the vessel. Sir, called out the Veldrathi sensor officer, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's moon. Zextal frowned. What kind of readings? Before the officer could answer, the lunar surface seemed to split open as concealed bay doors retracted, revealing a massive cannon that had been hidden beneath the regolith. A brilliant blue beam lanced out, striking the Veldrathi ship that was preparing to fire. The alien vessel's shields flared briefly before collapsing, and the ship itself broke apart in a silent explosion. "What is this?" Zexval roared, his composure shattered. The intelligence said they had no advanced weapons. More lunar surface sections were opening now, revealing not just weapons but launch bays. From these emerged sleek, black vessels with minimal lighting. Humanity's secret fleet. In the lead ship, the UES Defiance, Admiral Kanya Okoro spoke calmly into her comm. "All vessels, this is Admiral Okoro. Execute battle plan Thunderhead. Priority targets are their command ship and any vessels charging weapons. Earth defense grid is now active. Good hunting." Across Earth, what had appeared to be ordinary mountains, office buildings, and ocean platforms suddenly transformed as weapon systems emerged from concealment. A network of orbital defense satellites, disguised as communication relays and space debris, activated simultaneously. On the Veldrathi command ship, chaos erupted as sensors detected the sudden appearance of over 200 human warships launching from the Moon, Mars, and various points in the asteroid belt. "Impossible," Kor exclaimed. "These primitives couldn't have built this fleet. They can barely reach their moon." Zexval grabbed his second by the throat. "Clearly, our intelligence was wrong. Order all ships to battle formation. Target their largest vessels first." But the Veldrathi were already at a disadvantage. Their ships had been positioned for an invasion, not a space battle against an equal force. The human vessels moved with precision that spoke of years of training, executing complex maneuvers that the Veldrathi struggled to counter. The UES Defiance led a squadron directly toward the Veldrathi command ship. Admiral Okoro watched the tactical display with intense focus. "Their shields are adapting to our primary weapons," reported her tactical officer, Commander Devi Singh. "Effectiveness dropping by 12% per hit." Okoro nodded. "Switch to modulating frequencies as planned. Deploy Kestrel squadrons to target their sensor arrays." Smaller, faster craft launched from the human capital ships, racing toward the Veldrathi vessels with incredible speed. These fighters carried specialized weapons designed to blind the alien ship's sensors, creating gaps in their defensive coverage that the larger human vessels could exploit. Commander Zexval watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically taken apart by what should have been a primitive, easily conquered species. 3 more of his ships had been destroyed, and 5 others were dead in space, their propulsion and weapons disabled. How is this possible? He demanded of no one in particular. "Their technology. It's comparable to our own. Some of it we've never even seen before." His tactical officer, bleeding from a head wound caused by an explosion on the bridge, looked up from his console. "Sir, they're using modified versions of Veldrathi technology, but there are elements that appear to be entirely of their own design. They've improved upon our systems." Zexval stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had not only prepared for the Veldrathi arrival, but had seemingly anticipated their tactics and developed specific countermeasures. "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." The commander hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Put it through." Admiral Okoro's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was calm, her voice measured. "Commander Zexval, this is Admiral Kanya Okoro of the United Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed. 8 of your vessels are destroyed, 7 more disabled. You are outmaneuvered and outgunned. I offer you this one chance. Withdraw your remaining forces immediately and carry a message back to your empire. Earth is not a world for conquest. We are not prey. We will defend ourselves and any other species threatened by your empire's expansion. This is your only warning." Zexval's four eyes blinked rapidly as fury and disbelief warred within him. The Veldrathi had conquered over 300 worlds. They had never been defeated, never been forced to retreat. "You think this is a victory?" he snarled. "This was merely a scouting force. The Empire will send thousands of ships. Your world will burn for this defiance." Admiral Okoro's expression didn't change. "Then we'll be waiting. As you can see, we're quick learners." She ended the transmission. Zexval turned to his bridge crew. "Prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. All ships capable of flight are to withdraw immediately." As the surviving Veldrathi ships flood the Sol system, humanity celebrated its first victory against an interstellar power. But on the UES Defiance, Admiral Okoro and her officers knew the truth. This was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. "They'll be back," General Chen said, her hologram flickering slightly in the Defiance's briefing room. "And in greater numbers." Admiral Okoro nodded. "Then we'll need to be stronger, and we'll need allies." Chen's expression was grim but determined. "According to the data we recovered from their ships, there are other species who have been conquered by the Veldrathi. Some have been fighting resistance campaigns for decades. Then it's time humanity introduced itself to the galaxy," Okoro said. "Not as another conquered world, but as the force that will end the Veldrathi Empire." Alliances and counterattack. 6 months after Earth's unexpected victory over the Veldrathi scout fleet, the UES Pathfinder moved silently through the darkness of interstellar space. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching as the ship approached a small rocky planetoid that orbited a dying red dwarf star. "Any signs we've been followed?" she asked her sensor officer. Lieutenant Mason Kim shook his head. "Nothing, Captain. We're clear." Rodriguez nodded, though tension remained visible in her shoulders. This far from Earth, there would be no quick rescue if things went wrong. The Pathfinder had been dispatched to make contact with the Arxer Resistance, one of several groups fighting against Veldrathi rule in this sector of the galaxy. Receiving a transmission from the planetoid, reported Communications Officer Amara Osi. "Audio only." "Put it through," Rodriguez ordered. A gravelly voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself or be destroyed." Rodriguez straightened. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Pathfinder, representing the United Earth Defense Force. We seek a meeting with Resistance Commander Tarkval. We share a common enemy." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "Approach coordinates being transmitted. Any deviation will be considered hostile action." As the Pathfinder descended toward the planetoid's surface, Rodriguez caught her first glimpse of the Arxer base, a sprawling complex built into the side of a massive crater, almost invisible until they were directly above it. Landing pads extended from concealed bays in the rocky walls. "They're good at hiding," observed First Officer Alejandro Diaz. "Much like we were." The reception committee that met them at the airlock consisted of 6 tall, reptilian beings with mottled gray-green scales and vertical pupils. Their leader stepped forward, revealing a network of scars across his face that had damaged one eye. "I am Tarkval," he said, his translator rendering his words into slightly stilted English. "Former general of the Arxer Defense Force, now commander of what remains of my people. You claim to have fought the Veldrathi and survived. Prove it." Rodriguez nodded to her security chief, who handed Tarkval the data crystal. "Sensor logs and battle recordings from our engagement 6 months ago. We destroyed 8 of their ships and disabled 7 more." Tarkval's functional eye widened slightly, the first show of emotion from any of the Arxer. "If this is true, you would be the first species to repel a Veldrathi first contact force in over 2 centuries. "It's true," Rodriguez confirmed, "but they'll be back with a larger fleet. We're here because we need allies, and according to the intelligence we gathered, so do you." The Arxer commander studied her for a long moment before gesturing for them to follow. "Come, there are others you should meet." Inside the base, Rodriguez and her team were led to a large chamber where representatives of 4 other species waited. Tarkval introduced them one by one. The crystalline Litheri, who communicated through light patterns that their translators converted to sound. The methane-breathing Volcrin, encased in environmental suits. The insectoid Nelvari with their compound eyes and chitinous exoskeletons. And most surprisingly, a Veldrathi, though this one's scales were paler than those of the invaders they had fought. "This is Rixval," Tarkval explained, "a defector from the Empire, and my brother." Rodriguez couldn't hide her surprise. "Your brother?" Rixval stepped forward. The Arxur were the first world conquered by the modern Veldrathi Empire, nearly 3 centuries ago. Some of us were integrated into Veldrathi society, but not all forget where they came from. Over the next several hours, Rodriguez learned the true extent of the Veldrathi Empire. Over 500 worlds conquered, dozens of species either enslaved or exterminated. The resistance movements had been fighting separately for decades, conducting guerrilla operations, but never able to mount a significant challenge to the Empire's military might. Your victory, however small, has sent shockwaves through the Empire, Rixval explained. Never before has a pre-spaceflight civilization successfully repelled a Veldrathi force. We weren't exactly pre-spaceflight, Rodriguez admitted. We've had limited interplanetary capabilities for decades, and we had help. She explained about the crashed Veldrathi scout ship that had given Earth advance warning. Tarkval made a sound that the translators didn't catch, something between a laugh and a hiss. Fortune favors you, humans, but luck alone will not save you from what comes next. The Empire is mobilizing the largest punitive fleet seen in generations, over 300 capital ships with supporting vessels. When? Rodriguez asked, her mouth suddenly dry. 3 of your Earth months, Rixval answered. Perhaps less. Rodriguez took a deep breath. Then we need to move quickly. Earth can offer technology, ships and soldiers, but we need intelligence about Veldrathi tactics, weaknesses in their fleet formations, anything that might give us an edge. And what do you offer in return? Asked the Litheri representative, light patterns pulsing rapidly across its crystalline surface. Freedom, Rodriguez replied simply. An end to the empire that has subjugated your worlds. And afterward, an alliance of equals, not conquerors and conquered. By the time the UES Pathfinder returned to Earth, it carried representatives from all 5 resistant species. Admiral Okoro welcomed them aboard the orbital station Unity, which now served as the headquarters for Earth's defense forces. We have less than 3 months, Okoro said during the first strategic meeting. Even with all our combined forces, we'll be outnumbered at least 2 to 1. Rixval, who had intimate knowledge of Veldrathi fleet tactics, leaned forward. Numbers are not everything. The Empire has grown complacent after centuries of easy victories. Their formations are predictable, their responses to counterattacks standardized. General Chen, who had been studying the intelligence provided by the Resistance, pulled up a holographic display of the expected Veldrathi formation. They concentrate their firepower at the front, with support vessels arranged in defensive layers behind. Their command ships always remain at the center, well protected. A logical approach against enemies who can only defend, never attack, said Tarkval. But what if we were to attack from within their formation? All eyes turned to the Arxur commander as he manipulated the hologram, highlighting specific weaknesses in the Veldrathi approach. Their internal security is minimal. They do not expect enemies to appear inside their formation because no one has ever managed it. Admiral Okoro's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You're suggesting we teleport ships into their midst. Tarkval looked confused until Rixval explained. The humans have developed a technology unknown to the Empire, short-range quantum translocation, similar to our hyperspace technology, but used for tactical jumps rather than interstellar travel. Precisely, Okoro confirmed. We can't jump far, but we can position ships exactly where we want them within a limited range. if we can get close enough to their fleet. Over the next 2 months, Earth and its new allies prepared for the coming battle. The Resistance brought ships that had been hidden throughout the sector, while Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to produce more vessels equipped with the new technologies developed through the Alliance. Scientists from all 6 species collaborated, combining their knowledge to create weapons and defenses unlike anything the Veldrathi had encountered before. The Lithari contributed their mastery of light-based technologies, creating stealth systems that could bend light around ships, making them nearly invisible. The Nelvari shared their advanced biomechanical interfaces that allowed pilots to control their ships with thought alone, reducing reaction times dramatically. When the Veldrathi punitive fleet finally arrived at the edge of the Sol system, they found not a panicked civilization awaiting destruction, but a combined force of Earth and Resistance vessels arranged in a formation that appeared, at first glance, to be defensive. On the bridge of the Veldrathi flagship Imperial Wrath, Grand Admiral Jexval, Commander Zexval's father and the Empire's most decorated military leader, surveyed the enemy fleet with disdain. "So the primitives have found allies among the rebel vermin," he said. "It changes nothing. Begin the advance." The massive Veldrathi fleet moved forward in their standard formation, a spearhead of heavy battleships at the front, cruisers and destroyers forming protective layers around the central command ships. Their weapon systems powered up, preparing to obliterate the defiant humans and their allies. Admiral Okoro watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as the enemy approached. All ships maintained position. Wait for them to commit to their attack vector. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the distance closed. The Veldrathi fleet was now fully committed, their forward weapons beginning to glow as they prepared to fire. "Now," Okoro ordered, "execute Jump Protocol Alpha." Across the combined fleet, 50 ships, a mix of human, Arxer, and Nelvari vessels, activated their quantum translocation drives. In an instant, they vanished from the defense line and reappeared at precisely calculated positions within the Veldrathi formation. On the Imperial Wrath, alarms blared as enemy ships materialized less than a kilometer away, inside the formation's defensive layers. "Impossible," Grand Admiral Jexval shouted. "How did they penetrate our lines?" Before anyone could respond, the infiltrating ships opened fire from within the Veldrathi formation, targeting command and communication vessels with precise, devastating attacks. Simultaneously, the main Allied fleet surged forward, their weapons configured to exploit the specific frequencies where Veldrathi shields were weakest, knowledge provided by Rixval. The Veldrathi fleet, designed to project power forward, suddenly found itself under attack from both outside and within. Ships tried to reorient to face threats coming from multiple directions, creating chaos in their once perfect formation. The battle raged for hours. The Veldrathi, despite their initial surprise, fought with the determination of an empire unaccustomed to defeat, but the combined tactics and technologies of Earth and the Resistance proved too much for even their overwhelming numbers. The turning point came when a joint human Arxer strike team, using Lithari stealth technology, boarded the Imperial Wrath itself. They fought their way to the bridge where they confronted Grand Admiral Jexval. "Surrender," demanded Captain Rodriguez, who led the boarding team. "Your fleet is in disarray. Nearly half your ships are destroyed or disabled. End this now." Jexval looked at the human with hatred burning in all 4 of his eyes. The Empire does not surrender. Not to primitives, not to traitors. His hand moved toward a control on his command chair. Tarkval, recognizing the gesture, fired his weapon without hesitation. The Veldrathi admiral collapsed, dead before he hit the floor. He was activating the self-destruct, Tarkval explained grimly. A final act of defiance. With the flagship captured and their Grand Admiral dead, the remaining Veldrathi commanders found themselves in an unprecedented situation. One by one, they began to signal their surrender. As the human and Resistance forces secured the captured Veldrathi vessels, Admiral Okoro addressed the combined fleet. "Today marks the beginning of the end for the Veldrathi Empire. We have proven that unity and innovation can overcome even the most entrenched tyranny. This victory belongs not just to Earth, but to all species who desire freedom and self-determination. The message we send today will echo across the galaxy. The era of the Veldrathi Empire is over. The era of the Galactic Cooperative has begun. In the coming months, the Alliance would liberate world after world from Veldrathi control. The Empire, its military leadership decimated and its myth of invincibility shattered, began to fragment as subject worlds rose in rebellion. Humanity, once considered an insignificant species on a backwater planet, had emerged as a galactic power, not through conquest, but through cooperation and the simple, powerful belief that all species deserved to be free. When the first human diplomatic vessels arrived at the former Veldrathi throne world a year later, they came not as conquerors but as equals, offering a new vision for galactic civilization. And throughout the stars, species who had lived under imperial rule for generations looked to the skies with something they had long forgotten: hope.